on top. GamerRichy never gonna stop. At GM level he reigns supreme. Stim and win, it's like a dream. Lean and mean, a Terran machine. His skills on display, always keen. From the UK proudly stands. GamerRichy with victory in his hands. Stim and win, that's his game. In the battle of wits he'll claim his fame. Terran master with strategies pristine. GamerRichy the StarCraft king. On the battlefield he takes control. Every move calculated, every goal aiming high, reaching.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you doing? This is the 14th of July 2024. We are looking for, so we are currently doing a review on TVZ and TVP in terms of a general opener that's very, very good for Mech. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into the game here myself. Now, what I need to do, let me close my door very quickly. So playing Mech as a Mech opener, there are many, many ways you can do it. So we're going to be doing, in effect, the 3 racks version of a Mech opener. And it's going to be a 2 factory opening that you can use versus Zerg, versus Terran, and versus Protoss. It's actually really, really good. Quite unorthodox, and it's a different way of opening, but we're going to be able to do that today. So we've got the no sound currently on this recording at the moment, so you'll be able to hear my keys, and you'll be able to hear what I'm doing within the game. Now, the purpose of this opener versus Terran and versus Zerg is really just to be a really strong ground army, and also have an element, just an element of an anti-air army with the Cyclone. So this is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to go for a normal Reaper expansion. It's very, very strong. You can use this versus Protoss as well, and I'll show you how to transition. It's actually quite difficult in some areas to open like this versus Protoss, but you can get away with this in many instances. So what we're going to do is going to be doing a Reaper expander. At 18 supply, we're going to move across the map with the first SCV, so that we scout whether our opponent is actually going for an expansion or not. So at the moment, it's looking really, really simple here. Yeah, at the moment, looking very, very simple. Just making sure that I'm continually recording. So right now, we're going into this expansion here. Also, I hope you like the starting intro. It's absolutely awesome. Production value definitely has increased recently, which has been fantastic. Reaper, then Orbital Command. Now you can do a gas first version of this, which stops you getting the Marine after the Reaper here. So you can go gas first and open like this as well. So what we're going to do is going to be going into an expansion here. So expansion's coming down. Make sure we do all of our hotkeys here, and we're making sure we go for the second supply depot. Now, if you see a lack of anything from your opponent here, so say any aggression, we are going to make a bunker here. But let's assume that our opponent is playing relatively weird, or relatively, standard, as it were. So we're going to go Reaper into Marine, and for the purposes of this, we're actually going to put the Reaper in the middle of the map just to gain control of the map here. So getting the Marine that's coming out, and then we're going for the second gas here to make sure that we are now going to scale into the game. Now versus Zerg, what you want to be doing here is with your Marine, you want to be really patrolling along these lines so that when the Overlord comes in, because it has to come in to scout, you can eliminate it. Now this is where the build order is a little bit different to a lot of other players. Now, instead of our second starport, we are going to go into a second factory. And you can see here with the Reaper on maps like this, we can get good control of the map to see whether our opponent is moving across the map. So our second factory comes down here, and all we're going to be doing is swapping this barracks with this factory, and so on, and the other way around. While this is happening, you can start to saturate the natural as well. We are going to go for a tech lab in the main base. So this is one way of opening a very sort of aggressive or heavily defensive opener here with Mech versus any race. All right. It's not as good versus Terran, it's not as good versus Protoss, but it still holds its own within the game. We're going to constantly be making units as well. So we've got the Hellions here, and we're going to swap this over with the factory. So right now we've got a lot of this gas that's here. So as a general rule of thumb, we're going to make one cyclone, and we are going to start our blue flame. Now what that enables us to do is that enables us to kill all light units, so Hellions, Lings, Marines, stuff like that early on, as well as be very, very good versus bigger units as well, because we're obviously going for the cyclone. So we're going one cyclone all the time, 2 Hellions. Now this is enough at this point in time to start our 2 supply depot production here. And we're making 1 of these cyclones at a time and 2 Hellions, which is good. Now we're getting up to 2 base saturation here, and what we do need to watch out for is whether our opponent is going to be aggressive. And already here we've got quite a substantial army here to go out and do damage with or be annoying, but you don't necessarily have to be aggressive, because right now you've got enough resources to take the 3rd base. It's just making sure that we're not being supply blocked. Apologies, I think I've missed this supply depot. Normally there's some audio cues that allows me to do that. Now as you can see, we've got an abundance of gas, so right now we're going to add a 3rd factory here, and right now we are going to be adding the armory. Now versus Zerg, versus Terran, versus Protoss, Thors are very, very good in all matchups. Less so versus Protoss in the other matchups, but you know, it is what it is. Also, if you want to go for a more cyclone heavy army, you can actually double pump the cyclones versus Protoss if you want to. So right now, when we've got a big army here and we've got our blue flame, we now really want to go into tanks, because now we want to solidify our 3rd base. So with our 2 SCVs making supply depots, what we are going to be doing is we're going to be going for the extra gas in the natural. So right now we should have 2 tanks on the way soon, 2 Hellions on the way, and a really big substantial army here, which is looking very, very big. That is also what she said. +1 is on the way at this time, and now we can swap the factories over, which is fantastic. Now if it's versus Mutalisks, or you've only seen Zerglings and you think it's Mutalisks, right now we can start our Thors. If not, we're going double tank, double Hellion. And already right now we're at 5 minutes into the game. We've got our 3rd base coming down as well, which is a really good timing, and we've got our first tanks that are coming out here. Whilst we've got the extra base coming down, we need extra production. So just before we add on our gases, which we're going to grab straight away, we are going to add the extra factory units. Now if you are making Thors at this time, you won't be able to do that, because you're using a hell of a lot of resources. And you can see what I'm focusing on is constantly producing units all of the time. We're now at 6 minutes into the game. We've got 3 bases well on its way. We've got tanks set up on the way to the 3rd base. The only way we can lose the game is by something that is really strong and in the air. So we're going to make sure we keep making supply depots just everywhere that we can. We've got a +1 on the way, which is great. You can use this barracks to make your extra tech labs if you want to. And right now, with our 3rd base being saturated here, we're now getting into a really, really good position in the game, where we've got a lot of those bases now. Well, a lot of these 3 bases saturated. So what we want is a tech lab and a reactor, just in case we want to be going for a lot of Hellions or anything else. And what we're going to start adding is some Thors, around about 130 supply usually. Now we will need those Thors earlier if we think there's a threat from air earlier. So where there's Tempest, and Tempest gets shredded by Thors. And you just want to make a mixture of tanks and Thors, really. And Hellions. Hellions can be used here as cannon fodder, so they can be used to harass, as well as what you want to try and do is get your tanks all the way on to the next base here. And on a map like this, we do have to abuse the fact that we've got to mine these minerals here. So once we've done that, we can now make our 4th base, and you can see how I'm slowly scaling into the game. Nothing's too quick, nothing's too slow, and already at 8 minutes, we're nearing that max out point. We're really, really close, actually. We're really, really close. So again, we need to be making Thors, tanks, anything we can produce, Hellions, Cyclones, and already looking at this army here, we've got a rather big army as we're sieging up to our next bases. Now the only thing I haven't included here is an engineering bay. Now you can make an engineering bay, I think that would be reasonable, but just be careful, because too many missile turrets will stop and halt the amount of units you're going to have at this time. Now, when you finish your +1, you do need to have another upgrade on the way as well. So I always advise, once we're very, very close to getting maxed out for the first time and we finish the +1, we are going for 2-1 at least. Now, once our engineering bay is done, we always grab the sensor tower between the third base and the natural. So everything in the middle we can see coming across the map. And at home, we're making a mixture of tanks and Thors and everything like that. Once we have now our fourth base down, we're making 2 extra factories because now we're going to have to scale further into the game here. So we're going to make sure that we're getting all the gases as well. We're going to make sure we go for the planetary fortress. Maybe make a missile turret here, because right now one missile turret covers the east, one missile turret covers the west, and we're constantly making maxed out army. Now, all throughout this game, you could be harassing with the amount of Hellions that you make with the extra resources, or you can be trying to make sure that you're going for extra bases on the map and using your sensor towers to push them forward and forward and forward. Now, don't forget, you've got your auto tracking and neo steel armor that will affect planetary fortresses, and your high sec auto tracking that will affect your missile turrets. So if you like making a lot of missile turrets on the edges, that's a perfect ability to produce. So when they're on the edges here, we don't necessarily need it for our army because we've got Thors with a high impact payload. And all we're trying to do now is we're trying to saturate more bases. Really, we're trying to make sure that we're saturating as many bases as possible and we can remax. So what we're trying to do is, when we get to this position of the game, is we're trying to thin out our SCVs in each of our bases just by a little bit, and making sure that we've got enough SCVs covering most of the gases. So right now, looking at my factories here, I have a hell of a lot. So that's 10 factories here that I've got, yeah, which is great. Now, in the unfortunate scenario that we see a mass, I don't know, mass air army, yeah, and you know they are a thing, and we think the only option is to go for Stargate. We have to build 3 Stargate units, but we cannot build the fusion core until the starports are done. Yeah, so just be aware of that. And then you want to just try and slide in the weapons level 1 regardless of what upgrades you're creating. And as you can see here, the game scales slowly out of control here, where we're making more CCs and we're trying to make sure we're not getting supply blocked, and we're trying to thin out a lot of our SCVs on these bases. So I'm trying to make sure that we can slowly start to take control of the map. And all we're doing is maxing out on Thors, we're maxing out on army. You can now, if you've got extra resources, make missile turrets throughout the map, and then just really trying to take control of one side, so halfway through the map. You can even make sensor towers in positions that you usually wouldn't if you've got a really good economy. So that's what I would say. And you can, with Mech as well, you can almost start to put command centers literally in between bases so that you can build PFs, and you can really start to move your units forward. So this is how a lot of late game players will try to play this matchup, really. So they will try and now spread their tank line over here rather than all the way back at their third base, so they can protect their new bases. Some players in PvZ, TvZ and TvT will put 2 tanks by their planetary fortress because it's pretty bloody strong. 2 tanks to be able to hold that, really good for them to be able to at least hold that. So at the moment, this is a full-fledged guide on from the start to finish of exactly how, on a map like this, that we're trying to expand on each one of these maps. And at the moment, we've got a really big army. The only thing that I would change is the fact that we've got so many Hellbats. So in the end, once all of your army dies here, so we kill a lot of our army. So go tech labs and all of these, and we'll start our fusion core just in case we need like liberator range or something like that. So we're just going to kill as many units as we can here. And what you're meant to be doing is, after you've killed a lot of your units, you're meant to really max out with Thors. Like that is the main aim of the game, in all honesty, because the Thors are pretty disgusting. A lot of players don't know how to deal with mass Thors. It is pretty easy to then win the game. So then you're just making loads of Thors, and then if you want to go to BCs, you can go to BCs, but 3/3 Thors is the win condition. Alright. Now, in this situation where you've got too many planetary fortresses, all you're doing at home is you're trying really desperately to make 2 orbital commands, 2 more orbital commands, and you normally want about 5 to 7 orbital commands to spam those mules, so that we can, once we get a new base, we can then do it again. Or your second base, shall I say, next to your bases should all be orbital commands. So look, and already right now we've got this really heavily set up throughout all of our maps here, and you can already see now with our mineral income, it goes up and it goes down. And all we're trying to achieve here is trying to get maxed out with all of our Thors, and you can see here having just 77 workers, which we actually don't need anymore. The SCVs can actually kill themselves here, so we just kill themselves here, poor guys. And then the same thing here, we can just kill a couple of our workers, and then we can make more Thors. Because right now, once we've got all of our units together and we've got all the Thors, you've now got 3 Thors, which are absolutely disgusting. And you can go for anything other than, you can go BCs as well. Because right now, this is your end game. This is the Big Daddy army, yeah, the Big Daddy army. And then once your gases here are getting low, yeah, so all we're doing is we're just going to pull everything over to the next base and make sure we've got another command center. We're just putting loads of those mules down, and we're maxing out with our Thors again. And looking at this right now, where's our marine here? That's poor little marines in between everything. There we go. So kill that marine, and can we make one more? Of course we can. And right now, look at this. Just with one volley, you've almost destroyed a planetary fortress. So if you are versus mech as well, this is a really disgusting army. Because that almost just one-shot a planetary fortress. That's how strong these are. And again, what we're trying to do is making more orbital commands once we've been able to substantiate our economy. And then all we're doing when we're going across the map with all of our units, which is disgusting, this maxed out Thor army will literally one-shot a planetary fortress. It was very unlucky that these weren't firing, but they practically one-shot it. It is pretty disgusting how strong these duties are. And all we're doing here is as we're moving across the map, all you're trying to do is then take more bases, 2 at a time, and you're constantly making sure that the minerals are being put down as well. And you can see how quickly they clear things like rocks. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, because this is the army that you want to have. And you can really mess up your opponent's AI with some of the BCs that behind this, they've already got +1 armor, because they benefit from the +1 armor. They're moving across the map. So right now, this is one of the most disgusting armies at low elo that you can build, that your opponents will generally not have a Scooby-Doo of how to really abuse or anything like that. And all you're doing on your most recent bases, you're just making sure that you're just keeping up with that gas count. And you can see we've got a really good bank here. And again, we're just trying to snipe bases, kill units, and this army is generally very, very deadly. I mean, these are 3 Thors. Yeah, 3 Thors are absolutely disgusting. So hopefully I've been able to show you exactly what the end game army as mech is, hopefully showing you that you can open up with a lot of units early. What is this weak against? This is weak against a lot of heavy air early attacks, even though you've got the Cyclone. What you can lose to in TVT is Proxy Thor. What you can lose to TVT is a lot of Cyclones, albeit Hellions are actually still good versus Cyclones, so you have a good meat damage. Versus Zerg, you can lose to a max out Roach push, which is why tanks are really important, and you can lose to really early Mutilist play, which is why Thors are important as well. But once you get 3-3, unless it's a really experienced Zerg player, the Thors do absolutely so much damage. And you can see just on this map here, 2 or 3 of these sensor towers allows me to practically take half the map and have unlimited resources, so which is very, very good for us. And then you can do this and then look like a pro playing the later game and everything like that. So planetary fortress, orbital command, or 2 planetary fortresses, doesn't seem to matter. So hopefully you enjoy that. This is a really good really good replay to show you exactly how we're doing, exactly how we're opening up as mech, what the setup is going into mid game, and I really hope you have a really, really good day on ladder. I really hope you're able to really review this replay and have a look at the things that we're doing, especially the factory count, the gas count, making sure that between each one of our bases we are doing rather well. So hopefully you really enjoy this guide. Good luck, have fun, and see you on the ladder. Mech and Wreck, baby. Mech and Wreck.
In the world of StarCraft, he's on top. GamerRichy never gonna stop. At GM level, he reigns supreme. Stim and win, it's like a dream. Lead and mean.